What's up, everybody? It's Troy Cartwright. Welcome back to another episode of 10-Year Town. I hope everybody had a wonderful July 4th weekend. Before we get started, I've got a quick favor to ask of everybody. If you can go to 10yeartown.com and join the 10-Year Town community, it helps us out a ton. It will keep you up to date on new episodes, special events, and other stuff that I haven't even thought of yet. I appreciate it. Today's guest is Grammy-nominated songwriter Rob Williford. You know him from songs like Beautiful Crazy and One Number Away, recorded by Luke Combs. He's also had cuts with Tim McGraw and is an artist in his own right. He's got a brand new record called Johnny and Ginny. In this episode, we talk about that, his creative process, his songwriting process. I really enjoyed this conversation. I know you guys will too. So without further ado, here he is, Rob Williford. Well, dude, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How's the day going so far?
So far, it's a pretty harmless Monday.
Yeah? Did you write today?
I did not.
Okay. Just hanging out?
Hanging out. I went to the gym. I did a bunch of errands and caught up on emails.
Oh.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, I was recording last week. So, like, when I go into that bubble of recording, I tend to, other responsibilities tend to
of course.
fall by the wayside. So today was a little catch up of.
Yeah, it's like being on the road, too. You can just, like, ignore.
Yeah.
You can keep all that at bay. Mm-hmm. You know, there's other stuff going on.
I have to. I'm not good at, like, anytime I get in anything with the phone, really, the moment I get into it, especially if I start to see, like, emails stack up or texts that I haven't responded to, I have to get through it.
Yeah.
I can't just look at it and, like, put it away.
I can't just leave it for a couple of days. Yeah, I get that. Well, I always start this thing off with the same question, which is, how long have you been in town?
I have been in town collectively 15 years, but I have done, this is my second tour of duty, if you will.
Gotcha.
I moved to town the first time in 2006.
Okay.
I was a freshman at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Okay.
And after my freshman year, packed up a U-Haul trailer with two boys, two friends of mine from my hometown that I started a band with.
Yeah.
And we hit the road for Nashville. So first time, 06. I lived here like 3.5 years. I remember I moved back to Charlotte right before the flood in 2010.
Yeah.
And then I moved back again the second time in September of 2013.
Okay.
So going on 12 years since then.
So what did you do in the break part?
So when I moved the first time with that band from my hometown, it kind of just got out here and, like, we didn't know. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. But
yeah.
We got out here and we're just like, we'll play on Broadway.
Yeah.
Play some cover songs, man. And we played on Broadway. We played at weddings. We played at coffee shops, anywhere and everywhere that would have us.
Yeah.
But not a lot of direction going on at that stage in my life. And the two guys I was in the band with, they got married, had babies, started families, and they ended up moving back home to North Carolina. So I followed suit. I also kind of call that, like, my first experience with real heartbreak.
Really?
When those guys packed up and moved back, I was like, I didn't really know because I dropped out of college, didn't know what I was going to do. So I moved back to Charlotte, which is where I'm from. I'm from a little town called Gastonia, North Carolina.
Okay.
And moved back in with my mom.
Yeah.
Which is always humbling.
Yeah,
and,
no doubt.
Went back to school and back to work. And, man, it was like a 3-year period that I was still playing cover gigs on the weekends.
Yeah.
But I was in school and I was doing all these odd jobs. Like I worked at Best Buy and worked at the movie theater. And it was around 2013, I was doing a public relations job for a theme park in Charlotte called Carowinds.
Okay.
And it was like, I remember it was a Tuesday. It was a random Tuesday. I walked in the morning, clocked in at this theme park. And for lunch, I told everybody to meet in the conference room. I had an announcement to make. And the office was taking bets on did he get engaged? Did he knock somebody up? Is he going to have a kid? And so we get in the conference room, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to move back to Nashville. And I never clocked back in. And at the time, and I still have it, I was driving a Toyota Tacoma, and I got in that Tacoma, got on I-40 West, and drove here.
Really?
And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my mom. That was a mistake. But I didn't tell any of my friends. It was just a very impulsive, intuitive decision.
Yeah.
And to back up a little bit, my mom, for my 16th birthday, got me a ticket to CMA Fest.
Okay.
And that was my first time coming to Nashville.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting out in the audience. At the time, it was called LP Field.
Yep.
Nissan Stadium now. And Dirk Bentley, I'm 16, Dirk Bentley comes out on the thrust with just an acoustic guitar. And he starts playing this new song that he's never played before. And it's like, come a little closer, baby. I feel like laying you down. And in that moment, I was like, I'm going to be a songwriter. I don't know. It's just this, some people call it a calling.
Yeah, it got a hold of you.
It got a hold of me.
That's cool.
So, 2013, September, I'm working at this theme park, and it's a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah.
And I just, man, like that class of that I had moved here in 06, like Eric Church, Lee Bryce, Jaco, and Jared Neiman, like that sort of class of I was watching come up and tour and be on award shows and stuff. And I was like very resentful to an extent of like, what is this internal conflict I'm going through? And ultimately I arrived at, it's me, I'm the problem, you know, to quote Taylor. But I just, I was like, man, I'm just mad at myself. I'm not there. I'm not doing it. And so when I moved the second time, I knew I had a focus. I had lasered the focus of like, I want to be a songwriter. And I'm the kid that grew up reading the liner notes. I could tell you who wrote it, who played on it, who engineered it, who produced it, what label it came out on. And so when I came back to town, it was, I was hell-bent on networking and meeting these people, these songwriters that had written a lot of these songs that I loved growing up.
Yeah, it's amazing. And now we don't even have liner notes.
I know, it's weird. It's one of the weird things that sort of bugs me about the whole digital. There's a lot, but the digital thing I miss is like that, that booklet that you could like open up. And I know they still have it, and vinyl's like come back and
you
stuff,
can find it.
Yeah, I miss that like tactile thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big part of a lot of people our age's experience,
Right.
It's how you kind of got to know what was what.
Yeah.
Who did it all. Now you can kind of go to the song credits on.
Yeah, I'll still look it up. And,
on Spotify or whatever. But.
Yeah, I'll click on the thing and from time to time like be interested in. Yeah. Sometimes I can tell. I can hear a lyric and go, ooh, that's Bobby Pinson for sure.
Yeah, man. Let's take a quick break here to tell you about our friends, the Graphic Guitar Guys. If you've ever thought about having a custom guitar, whether for merch, a giveaway, or a unique VIP package item, Graphic Guitar Guys makes it simple. They've worked with some of the biggest names in country music, handling everything from the guitar to full color graphics and shipping, and it's all for one easy price. They're also a great option for album pre-sale bundles or fan collectibles. I've worked with Scott and the rest of the team myself, and they really do make the whole process effortless. Check them out at thegraphicguitarguys.com. Now, back to the show. So, when you came back with your renewed focus, where did you start?
Oh man, that I could write a book just on that year. So I came back, I had nowhere to stay. I crashed on couches, rented rooms on Craigslist. A lot of good stories there. We don't have enough time.
Yeah.
But I kind of wandered. It was my gypsy phase of life. And man, I played every open mic, every writer's round, anybody and everybody that would let me kind of play guitar for them on the side. I was just like trying to meet people and play. And again, getting odd jobs. I worked at the movie theater at Opry Mills, sweeping popcorn. I worked at the CVS, the Home Depot in Bellevue. One of my favorite gigs was I worked on the General Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
The Showboat.
Of course.
And I started in December, and it was just
peak
brutal
time.
Cold. Yeah. Brutal cold. I was a deckhand. I was swabbing a poop deck out there. And I lasted about a month on that that gig.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to meet people and network and like, going to loser bar.
Yeah, of course.
Trying to just figure out my way, man. And during that time, met some people that I still play with today. I mentioned Kurt earlier, Kurt Ozon. He's a guy I met in 2013 that was, when I met him, he was a guitar player, and he had gone to school at Berkeley, was getting his master's at Vanderbilt, and we were in a band together like 2013.
Yeah.
And now he plays for Luke.
Yeah.
Combs. So that was a cool full circle thing. But man, yeah, I was just trying to like get in the scene and play gigs, and I would fill in on Broadway for people and started to write, just like every day. Didn't know what I was doing, but anybody, we'd go to like Tin Roof or Whiskey Jam or any kind of writer's night and just sort of shake hands and say, hey, I'm Rob Williford. Would you, we should write sometime. Yeah. They all used to have that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And through that, I ended up meeting two guys named Paul Worley and Wally Wilson. And I signed my first publishing deal.
Yeah.
And I remember when I signed that, it was something ridiculous, like $12K a year.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I've made it. I remember I called CBS. I was like, I quit. And but that was like my sort of first getting a toe in the door kind of thing.
Yeah.
And around that time, this would be like late 2013, early 2014, I got a call. The thing I miss about that time period in my life is like I was broke, I was hungry, I was scrapping, I was hustling, and I only had to wake up every day and focus on music.
Yeah.
It was my sole identity in life at that time.
Yeah.
And I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, yeah, tell him to come on down here. I'd love to meet him.
Yeah.
And that guy was Luke Combs. And Luke is also from North Carolina. We grew up pretty close together, but had never met. And where it all kind of came together is we both found out that we loved this other Carolinian named Eric Church.
Yeah.
And Church had just put out the record Chief.
Yeah.
And
life-changing record.
Man. And we sat down and played, we jammed Wrecking Ball. And then he played me a song by Jason Isbell called Elephant. Mm-hmm. And I'd never heard it.
Oh, my God.
And from there, man, we became buddies. And, like, he would come to town, like, once a month.
Yeah.
And we would write. And that was, the friendship out of that was born, the co-writing thing. And then ultimately he moves to town in 2015.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's one of those things that I really believe, in a spiritual context of, like, people say you're so lucky, or I hear the word luck tossed around. And I do believe that luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
No doubt.
And so I think when you put yourself in a position, whether it's with music or really anything in life, if you put yourself there to have the ethos or the universe or God really make something happen, I look back on that moment and I go, yeah, that was above my pay grade.
Yeah.
That sort of connection in the meeting.
That was some magical stuff right there. And, it's tricky sometimes too when you're like a songwriter trying to make your way in this world. Mm-hmm. You get off, especially if you're like a signed writer or whatever, these opportunities come your way all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard to know.
Oh, yeah.
Some days you just like, I mean, man, I remember like 2-3 weeks ago, I didn't have a ride on like a Friday. Mm-hmm. So I had like booked a round of golf with the boys or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like my publisher at the last minute, like added the right, and I was like, man, I don't know. I got this thing I got to do.
Yeah.
But then I just like made it work. And I don't know if anything will come of that. I hope so. Sure. But there's a lot of moments like that where you're, and that's kind of the carrot that's dangling for all of us all the time is like here's this new artist or whatever. Will you write with them and try and always say yes? Mm-hmm. I guess you can't say yes to all of them, but sometimes they become Luke Combs, and that's the dream,
I was really fortunate and privileged on so many levels because Luke and I developed the friendship.
Yeah.
And so it was never a transactional thing.
Right.
Neither of us had anything going on. It
Yeah.
wasn't set up by a publisher, and I'm not shitting on publishers. I'll do that later.
Okay. All right.
But it was purely out of like the love of the game.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like I had, again, the luxury of writing my bad songs or the songs that, you know, got me to better songs with Luke.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I hope he feels the same. But it allowed us to really, and I see this happen a lot here, of people growing and evolving in their craft with their friends.
Of course.
Versus this transactional nature of like, let me put new writer with Tom Douglas, or let me put new artist with
Right.
Jay Joyce. You got two different levels of craft. To me, it's more sustainable if we're just talking about songwriting. When a songwriter comes to town and really gets intentionally focused on tuning out the noise, putting on the blinders and being like, no, I love what me and this person write together.
Yeah.
And everybody else be damned.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the tendency is usually like, how can I get in this room with this guy? And I've been guilty of that.
Oh, no doubt,
Absolutely.
man. I mean, and it's natural, and especially as the opportunities
Yeah.
grow, you get the opportunity to write with Tom Douglas or you know, I mean, these legendary writers. I think, you know, everybody's experience is different. My experience was like, at one point, I got signed to like a record deal. So now they're throwing me in these rooms with these huge hit songwriters. Well, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
You know, and all the people that I've gone on to have success with now are the people that were where I was at.
Hell yeah.
That have been my friends, and like, you know, we just like, you know, it's starting to like really happen for us or whatever. But I mean, it's been 7, 8, 9 years of us just like writing songs and drinking beers and throwing darts, and
That's another thing, man, is if you don't have the opportunity to live life with another person.
Yeah.
I mean, you may be really good at the craft of like getting in the room with a stranger and you know, pulling out the thing. I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
And even now, even at like, I'm 38, like I said, I've been here roughly a cumulative 15 years.
Yeah.
I still need, rarely, if ever, do I get with somebody in the first write, we get some sort of gold.
Right.
I need that, like, I need to get to know you. I need to know what makes you tick. Tell me about your trauma, baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's going on in your head? And then we can get to the place of writing, hopefully, better songs and closing the gap on, you know, write 100, get one good one.
Right.
Write 50 more, get a good one. And then you start closing the gap on
your ratio.
your
goes
ratio.
up.
And Luke and I really had, I think, again, the privilege of like, we're in a Dodge Neon. We were sleeping in shitty hotels and like really living life at that stage together in a way that yielded dividend in lyric and melody.
Yeah.
And I wish more people saw it that way. It's especially now in the era we live in with like attention span being gone, or people like the instant gratification.
Yeah, man. But I think, and that's one of the things that would, you know, try and highlight with this podcast being called 10-Year Town. It's like, it's a craft, man.
Yeah.
And if you come here and you think it's going to happen in 6 months or whatever, like, I don't know, occasionally I guess it does.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's like, if you can accept that it's a long road and realize that the joy that comes from being in it for the long haul and the joy of the journey and getting to live life with those people that you're on this like trip through life with.
It's the thing I'm most appreciative of now, like today, right now in time and space, because 2.5, 3 years ago, I got into producing.
Yeah.
And I am in the infancy of my craft of producing.
Yeah.
And I understand how far I have to go, but it's like the joy of getting to grow and evolve and get better with people that I love. And I get to make music with people that I love. I'm okay with not being Rick Rubin yet.
That's right. And because you understand too, like, all the lessons that you're going to learn, and you know, once you start walking down this path, all the stuff that you're going to know a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now that you don't know today. It's like that stuff, like that gets me inspired, you know?
That's the best.
Yeah.
Same with, I spoke at Belmont recently, and somebody asked a question about songwriting, and I was like, look, if you write a song a week, arbitrary numbers here, but if you write a song a week, that's 50 songs a year roughly. In a year, I want you to look back on those songs, and undeniably, you should be going, ooh, I've gotten better. You should see the arc of the improvement, and I still do it today, and I hopefully will do it in 15 years from now of looking back and going, ooh, I don't know about that, you know. That's the money right there. That's the part where you're like, just keep going because you get the opportunity to go, oh, I'm learning something here.
Yeah.
Versus the other flip side of the coin, which is entitlement, in my opinion, of like, I deserve this. And it's easy. I see a lot of artists, you know, watch their friends have some viral thing on TikTok, or they just signed them a big old record deal down there at Sony or whatever.
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of go, well, I deserve this. I'm better than them. It doesn't work like that, especially in songwriting now more than anything.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but I don't really think the best song wins.
Yeah.
I wish it did. That'd be sick. I think the best song for the moment and for the artist wins. Because if you and I sit here and we write Imagine or something life-changing, and there's no artist to inhabit it and to own it and to get it out in the world, who cares how good we are at rhyming words? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's true, man.
It's that's how I think about it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of luck involved and timing, and I mean, you know, getting a song just cut is a miracle.
I agree. A guy named Phil Billy told me something a long time ago that really hit me between the eyes. He's like, Rob, he was congratulating me on a number one. He's like, Rob, getting a number one is like landing a helicopter on a lily pad. I'm like, now more than ever, I go, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your first number one song?
A song called One Number Away.
Yeah. Great song.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Love
that. That was one of the earlier songs that Luke and I wrote, I think, as he was kind of commuting back and forth from Boone.
Okay.
And that's one of the few songs I actually played on and sang on.
Yeah.
Which is a cool thing. I think it was just out of, you know, back then we didn't know what we were doing. I was just trying to help make the demo, and but yeah, that was the first one.
That's sick, man. As I guess like Luke's star started to rise and you're writing songs and doing all this stuff, what was that experience like for you?
The best I can recall, I mean, it was surreal.
Yeah.
You know, the thing I really remember the most is going from the inception of the idea, and then whether it was like, it was kind of the early days of like Facebook Live or some social media stuff. Digital era had kind of started happening, and like we went Facebook Live, and like Beautiful Crazy got like 1 million views, and then to go and like see that, to see 80 people singing lyric and melody to a song that was unreleased, and then ultimately getting to go like Melbourne, Australia in 2018 and hear 50,000 people sing One Number Away, or like Berlin, Germany.
Yeah.
That's the part of it as a songwriter that was like the most fulfilling. That sort of human connection of that song reaching somebody, and then you get to sort of go and sing it with them, essentially. Yeah. That's the part that I cherish the most about that.
I mean, that's dream.
Yeah.
That's dream board material for
definitely.
Sure. That's really cool, man. I love that. So I don't know. Like, I mean, there's so many places we could go.
Oh yeah.
And I know there's a lot to get to.
Yeah. How long you got?
But what are some other, I don't know. What are some other like high watermarks along the way?
As a kid growing up, you know, I told you I read the liner notes and stuff.
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids, you know, maybe sit in the backyard and counting down, act like they're hitting a buzzer beater to win the national championship or a walk-off grand slam to win the World Series. I always dreamed and fantasized about winning a CMA for Song of the Year.
Wow.
And so to get to do that in 2019 with Beautiful Crazy and have my mother there, that's one of those just like in the highlight reel of my life for
Yeah.
sure. There's a lot along the way, man, especially with Luke.
Yeah.
Getting to play things like the Opry was huge. When I was in 7th grade, I made, we had to make like 3, I would call them bucket list items, but my Christian school didn't call them that. But we had to do 3 things we wanted to do by 30. And mine were win the Masters,
Okay.
Graduate from college, and play the Grand Ole Opry.
And how'd you do?
And I graduated from college.
All right.
And played the Opry within a month.
2 for 3.
In 2016, yeah.
Not bad.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Meatloaf.
And the Masters, I mean, life's long, dude.
Dude, I'm terrible at golf. Golf is one of those things I'll play it, but these days I go out there and I'm like, I'm not good enough to get mad at this. I can't let my emotion,
Just gotta enjoy
I just
it.
have fun, dude.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
I was reading your like some of the stuff that they sent over before, just trying to be loosely prepared.
Yeah.
So I think I have this right. If I'm not, I apologize. But you were on the road with Luke as well, and then at some point, I think like after 2020, you like decided to like step down or
So 2020 happened. We were actually touring in Amsterdam.
Okay.
We were on the European like C2C thing.
Yeah.
And borders closed. We jump on a plane. We come back over. That's like early March.
Oh wow, this is like right before
the
world shut down.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they told us we're off for 2 weeks. 2 weeks turned into 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Et cetera. I started bass fishing again. That's one thing I got into.
Yeah.
Fishing is my first love for sure. But I also watched around that time a documentary about Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Yeah.
And man, it was kind of like when I was 16, seeing Dirks play that song.
Yeah, got
I
a hold of
watched
you.
it like a couple times, and something about it spoke to me. And to kind of fast forward through a lot of that time, I hit up Ben Vaughn, who was Warner was my publisher at the time, and I said, Ben, do you know a guy named Kyle Cook? He plays guitar in this band, Matchbox 20.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite band of all time. And he's like, yes, I do know him. And he connected Kyle and I. And so we go to eat at this Indian place. And we're sitting there eating. And I was like, dude, would you want to make a record with me? Just like out of the blue, just thinking, what's the worst he's going to say? No.
Yeah.
Shit. And like an hour later, dude, we were at his studio and I was playing the Gibson SG that he played on 3 a.m.
Dang.
And I remember thinking in that moment, like, whew, like 18-year-old me would be freaking out right now.
Yeah.
He'd be losing his mind. And luckily, because Matchbox or nobody was touring at that time, Kyle had,
He had time
to do it. And
Yeah.
he's like, where do you want to do the record, man? Blackbird, Ocean Way? I'm like, Fame in Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
He's like, all right. And honestly, I didn't even think they'd let me in the door because I'm like, I don't, the one thing I'll tangent here is like when I got off the boat in Nashville, they're like, do you want the red pill or the blue pill? Are you an artist or are you a songwriter?
Yeah. You have to choose.
And now I don't, at this age, I don't subscribe to that anymore because I look at like Joni Mitchell, Johnny Cash, Elton John, Willie Nelson, all the way to like Tony Lane, Jonathan Singleton, Travis Meadows.
They all got
These
records.
are artists and they are songwriters.
That's right.
There's an amorphous, anyways, because I wasn't an artist and I didn't have a record deal, I didn't think that like Fame would let me come down there and make a record. Mm-hmm. Through some mutual connections, a guy that I was writing with at the time, David Mescon, he goes by Messy, he knew this guy, Spencer Coates, who was the studio manager. I called down. Spencer and I talked for like an hour on the phone. It was like we were long lost brothers. We went down there and made this record, right? And it was just a handful of songs that over the years I'd written and loved and nobody had cut. And I'm really proud of that record. It's called Wild Card. But it was pure redneck Picasso. It was like, I didn't know what I was doing, just having fun. And from that, like Tim McGraw recorded a song off that. So it was like, it was cool. But that was really my first time getting to experience Shoals and Fame. but 2, it was my first time getting to play in that sandbox of taking it from work tape on your phone to getting it to, unfortunately, what everybody listens to on the tiny speakers on your phone.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Yeah.
But like that process I fell in love with. And fast forward now, we're 5 years down the road and I have a place in Shoals and I started a record label and I'm working down there in Fame every month.
Wow.
But it was all born out of that in 2020, seeing the documentary.
Yeah.
Meeting Kyle Cook, going down there, making music for fun.
Yeah.
And so when I did that, I knew intuitively, I had the gut feeling that I don't think I can go be a sideman anymore.
Yeah, was that, I mean, like, that was one of the things I was kind of curious about. Like, was that sort of, I mean, I'm sure you were doing fine just from the hit songs, like, as far as, like, not being too worried about, like, whatever the show pay is.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But still, you're out there, you're playing, I'm sure it's an amazing gig. And so to like,
it's like having your dream, have your dream come true and then be like, oh,
yeah, right.
Man, I spent like 2 years really just internally ruminating on, is this right? Is this the right? And Luke and I talked about it multiple times.
Yeah.
And he was nothing but supportive.
Yeah.
We had actually talked about it prior to 2020, but then that happened. He paid our salaries for 14 months.
Yeah.
I couldn't go back out and for a show be like, all right, see ya. So I'm proud of the fact that I stuck it out through the end of 2022.
Yeah.
And I think that like Luke deserved that. I deserved that. It was just the way that it should have happened. And it also, again, like it let me dictate, when that time was. I always thought I'd get fired along the way, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But man, it was one of the probably the hardest decision I've ever had to make.
Yeah. Well, it's a total, I mean, at that point, everybody there is probably like a brother or sister.
Oh,
to
man,
you,
I get asked all the time of, do you miss the road? I get that question all the time.
Yeah.
And my answer has always been the same. No, I miss the people.
Yeah.
I miss the guys. I miss the hang. I miss the camaraderie of touring.
Yeah.
I do not miss the road. And I'm glad to an extent, because that would have sucked ass if I had left the road and been like, what? What did I do?
Yeah.
But I knew, man, it got to a point of I was trying to tour at a stadium level. I was trying to write 3-4 days a week while we're in town.
Yeah.
And I was dipping my toes into like recording and producing.
It's just not enough time.
And it was like, I'm the jack of all trades and the master of none. And I was getting burnt out.
Yeah.
I didn't have the RAM. I didn't have the time. And there's a finite amount of energy you have.
No doubt.
And I wasn't healthy. And it all came down to like a mindfulness around like, I need to be A, healthy, and 2, I need to pursue what I'm passionate about. Yeah. And I call it like the old man in the sea, baby. Like I'm the old man and music is the sea. And it's constantly like pulled me out in certain directions and I follow it. And I've always done that. And I just knew at that time, all right, I'm very proud of this chapter. It's remarkable. I'm forever indebted and grateful for it.
Yeah.
But this thing that I found at Fame in Shoals, like I need to pursue it with 100% of me versus like trying to straddle the fence and be like, look at me, look sexy on the stage. Yeah. And then act like I'm, Rick Hall or Rick Rubin. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough.
You had to choose.
Yeah.
You had to choose one. I love that analogy, man. It's really poignant. So like, how does one even begin to like find a studio to go like do all, I mean, like that seems crazy.
I mean, I fell in love with Fame, and Fame was built in 1962 by Rick Hall, and the story is remarkable. I encourage anybody that's listening to go watch the documentary.
Yeah.
But when I walked in there was something about, one, the smell of it. It smelled like my grandparents' house. And that was comfortable to me. And 2, there was just an overwhelming energy of like, I belong here, oddly enough. And you brought up golf earlier. I love to play golf, but I don't love being in a country club. Sometimes I feel this air of pretense, like, get out of here, you redneck.
Yeah.
You don't belong in here. Studios have been like that for me here in Nashville. You don't belong in here. You don't belong in this nice studio. This is for A-list players.
Yeah.
This is for like, and it's me. It's a me problem.
Sure.
It's an insecurity is what it is.
Yeah.
But Fame was the first studio that was a creative space that I went into and went, oh, wow, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
And I feel like I belong here. So,
well, and that's a real thing too. You know, I talk with a lot of friends of mine that are in bands or whatever, and like maybe they're not of the Nashville system.
yeah.
And they'll come to Nashville to make a record. And a lot of times the next record, they won't do it in Nashville. And it's nothing, it has a lot to do with like, I just didn't feel that comfortable, you know? And I don't know why that is, but it makes sense.
Everybody,
you know?
I feel this real responsibility or obligation to be, one, a good custodian of the history of the music that's been made there.
Yeah.
But two, I genuinely, authentically, and sincerely want to share it. This thing I'm talking about. This experience, this comfort, this creativity is what it is. It's inspiration.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just, again, very privileged and fortunate to have found Fame, because I had never had an experience like that prior in studios.
Yeah. Very cool. And you got a new record?
I do have a new record. I guess we got to do that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I made that record with Kyle. That one came out 2021 or 22, something like that. Yeah. Math is hard. So I went down at the end of 2023, December of 23. I tracked this 14-song record.
Yeah.
And to back up a little bit, summer of 2023, I had just reached critical mass of burnout when it came to co-writing.
Okay.
I couldn't do it anymore. And especially on the road and here in Nashville, like I wasn't bringing anything in to the room. And I knew that. Again, this is a me thing. It's nobody else's fault. But I, again, try to be mindful of like, is this healthy? Yeah. I don't ever want it to feel like a job. I'll go work at General Jackson again. I need to do that. And so I kind of pulled back, man, and just took some stuff off the calendar, and I went down to Shoals, and I still wrote, and I still co-wrote, but it was mostly in Fame, and it was with no sort of agenda.
Yeah.
And because of that, I ended up writing these songs, and one of them's called Johnny, and one of them's called Jenny.
Yeah.
And it started to kind of reveal itself as like not a concept record, but it was the first time I really felt like I was writing songs that I was supposed to sing, that the ownership, the inhabiting of it was me for the first time.
Yeah.
Not that they're great songs. I just felt like they were honest and unfiltered out of my vein.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I, accumulated this pile of songs, and we went down there and cut on the mics, and I intentionally wanted it to be not necessarily a live record, but like we didn't do charts. There was no pre-production. There was no real forethought. It was like I called up a lot of my buddies. Like I had Kurt Ozon on steel guitar, Weston Stewart on electric, who plays for Muscadine, who you've had on, I know.
Yeah.
Noah Gunderson, who lives here now, but at the time he was living in Seattle. David Mescon on bass, Daniel Sosa on drums. And I just kind of put together this band of guys that I was comfortable with. And I was like, look, y'all are really good. Y'all are way better than me. We ain't got to get the charts out in the steno pads. Like, I'm going to play the song. I'm going to give you that shitty Bob Dylan version right here.
Yeah.
And I just want you to play.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to like the first principle, back to the well of garage band days of.
Well, just like, I talk about it all the time. I say this like every other episode, but it's like just kids in the sandbox.
Yeah.
Making music.
And that took a minute. First day, it was like, because people kind of are used to that studio experience.
We learned it wrong.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Studio can be daunting, man. That red light fever, if you got a guy behind the glass and he expects this part from you, so all the guys are coming in it's professional, but there's like there's no opportunity to fail at that point.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go and have a little fun. And so I'd say by day 2, man, we were rocking and rolling. And we cranked through these songs, and I left a lot of the imperfections on there. There's no real overdubs. It's not like...
Yeah, I listened to Ginny earlier today.
Cool.
And a couple, I think there's just like 5 out from that right now.
Correct.
But yeah, I loved it. It definitely has like a little bit of like a live feeling, even with just like some of the intros, like the stuff that's left in there.
It's some of that. A lot of that's the air in the studio. I feel like.
Yeah,
and I
really
miss
cool.
that part of it in modern music. That like hearing the air around it. And Andy Park, who co-produced it with me, he had this great idea to on that song Jenny. We pulled out iPhones or whatever phone we had, and just put it beside us. And so a lot of that you're hearing is the iPhone recording and audio mixed in.
Wow, that's cool. Just give it a little room sound.
Yeah, it just made it feel
the creak of the chair. And,
exactly. And I thought that that was really my mission, was nothing more than let's just get my interpretation of like what this little mini movie behind the song looks like sonically.
Yeah.
And so when I did the record, didn't really have any intention of, I didn't know when I was going to put it out, if I was going to put it out, whatever. A little bit of time goes on. Summer of 2024, I run into this guy named Dustin Haney.
Oh, yeah, I know Dustin.
Cool.
Yeah,
and so
great guy.
To back up, I met Dustin in 2017. Luke and I were opening for Brantley Gilbert. We were the first of 3 on the Brantley Gilbert tour. And at the time, Dustin Haney was the tour photographer for Brantley.
Gotcha.
So fast forward, 2020, around that time, Dustin also comes off the road and gets into directing music videos.
Right.
So I run
success.
Oh man, he's had a ton of success. He's killing it. So I run into him summer of 24, last summer, and I was like, "Hey man, I did this weird record. It's called Johnny and Jenny. Would you know anybody that would like help me with creative direction?" And at the time, I was thinking of like somebody to make a cover art or an album art. Like just that's just not my
Spotify
forte.
canvas. Or
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. And he's like, "Well, I'd like to hear the music." And so he came over to the house and was gracious enough to sit down and listen to that, because like it's not an easy listen, It's not a bop.
Sure. Well, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So he listened
raw.
to it. Yeah. And he was like, "Man, have you thought about like making a little short film around it?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Man, I would love to, because when I've written, as long as I can remember, when I write a song, I see something happening."
Yeah, seeing those little movies, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just as a kid, I've maintained that imagination.
Yep.
But he's like, "Yeah, maybe we do a short film." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't afford you. 2, nobody's going to take you seriously. Like, this is my little passion project." We kept spitballing it back and forth for a couple months over text. He ends up writing a script. And I'm like, "All right, I'm going to figure this out." And so, I got in touch with the state of Alabama and found incentive money there and just tried to, like, as much as I could, lean on Dustin and his expertise in that craft to put this together. And, dude, we filmed it in 2 days with a crew of 15. It's a 20-minute short film. And I'm very proud that we filmed it in Shoals.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that because there's something palpable about the grit and energy of the area that really comes through on the screen. But it's just like a visual companion to this record, Johnny and Jenny, and both of them come out end of June 27th.
Very cool.
And I'm stoked for people to see it. It really gave me a new appreciation for, I thought making a record was hard. Dude, making a movie.
Oh,
shit.
Dude. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But seeing Dustin and his craft in directing, like, gave me a whole new appreciation for that.
That's really cool. I love that.
So I hope to do more of that kind of thing, man. And honestly, Troy, it was, one, I'm always going to write songs. I couldn't stop even if I tried.
Yeah.
But what it really was for me was I wanted to immerse myself in the experience of being an independent artist, from everything to releasing it and navigating playlists and DSPs and all that shit. But really what I wanted to do is like understand what is going through the artist's head when they're in the cans in the vocal booth recording a song, so that I can impart that experience to people that I'm helping produce or work with recording or writing.
That's very cool.
Because like I got, I've been a tour manager. I've run front of house. I've run wedges. I've, obviously been a guitar player and a sideman. I have this experience on my resume in all these different categories.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of experience. I finally got my degree from MTSU in music business and entrepreneurship. And so I have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to publishing and intellectual property and copyright. But this was like the one thing that I'm like, no, I need to get in there and do it and experience the good, the bad, and particularly the ugly to help, whether it's like on an empathy level or just an understanding. I always thought that was odd when somebody that would sit behind a desk that's never written a song would give me feedback about a song.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't never written a song.
Yeah, it's very illuminating to walk in somebody else's shoes for a little bit.
Yeah.
Whether that, makes you thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, or if it's just a learning experience for the journey along the way, it's pretty important. A lot of people don't do it, A lot of people are afraid to like get out of their lane.
So that's a real thing, man. And if
that's
nothing
cool.
else, I want this project and short film to sort of sit immovable in time and space and find its way to people. I want the music to find its way to people that it is meant to, but I also want it to be like a lightning rod to attract people that want to come down and make art. Want to come down to Shoals and really go, all right, it may not be the most commercially viable, but this guy's actually committed to making art.
And like, that's something I spend a lot of time thinking about. Commercially viable.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Because nothing is ever commercially viable at first.
Yeah.
I was watching speaking of music documentaries, I was watching that new Led Zeppelin documentary. Cool. It's really cool. And like one of the things that stuck out to me the most, I didn't realize this about the time, but like AM radio, this was the late 60s, early 70s. AM radio was singles, FM was album radio.
I didn't know that.
And for Led Zeppelin 2, Jimmy Page was like purposefully like adding in all these ambient guitar parts and stretching the lengths of the songs because he didn't want the songs to be singled.
Huh.
He wanted, the way it would work is you'd play you'd play side A, and then the DJ would talk and then they played the other side or they played half the record. And I never really thought about that, but I think it's the same way now. It's like, well, we're so singles focused and we're so concerned about the streams or this or whatever. And it's like, but you're just reverse engineering other people's stuff.
Yeah.
Go make something great. Who knows what's going to happen, And I mean, I think that's the exciting part about creation is like, if you just go make something because you feel it, because you believe it wholeheartedly and you're able to get that signal all the way through, I think that can become really powerful. And also the beauty of what you're doing with your own record, and I think with your life in general, is like you get to choose your own scoreboard. You don't have to, subject yourself to the like Spotify monthly listeners or whatever. Like it's like people you can care about it if you want, but you can also just choose to care about like, I just want to make the most authentic record to me that I can make. And if you're lighting up that scoreboard, like who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
I believe that, especially as it relates to my litmus test for a song is, does it make somebody feel? Yeah. And that could be happy. You know, if you're like me and you love Keith Whitley, it can make you, I love good old whiskey drinking sad songs too. Yeah. But does it make you feel something in a way that elicits not just, ooh, they got a good voice? Yeah. Does it really?
This one's a bop. It's like, no, this one made me cry. Mm-hmm. This song was devastating. Elephant by Jason Isbell.
Devastating song.
Devastating song. Yeah. But I think that stuff is important.
Yeah.
If we can't feel devastated, what are we doing here?
Any shade of emotion,
Yeah.
whether it be dark or light.
Yeah.
You know, there's a song on the record that's called Eden. It's like one of the lighter moments of the record, but it's a love song.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love great love songs that make me feel that emotion of love just as much as I love a great heartbreak song, you know.
Yeah.
As long as there's real, true emotion in it.
Yeah.
And I'm also not like, I get no FOMO. I get no fear of missing out on like stuff that may be more commercially viable or may make more money.
Yeah.
Because I do believe wholeheartedly in my life experience, if you get, you know, 4 number ones, you're going to want 5. If you get 99, you're going to want 100. If you win 5 Super Bowls, you're going to want 6. There's an insatiable thing that if you think you're going to get fulfillment and validation from a number 1 song or playing whatever it is, Red Rocks, or whatever that benchmark, goals are important, but it's also important to understand that like if you are dealing with art and particularly the commerce of art, you've got to find that, like you're saying, that inward fulfillment of it is my scoreboard kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean just be okay with like being bad or like not wanting to improve or get better.
Not.
It just means don't, you know, if your validation is in what the song does commercially after you've released it, then I think you've sort of missed the boat.
Yeah, well, for me, it's just like, don't take your values like off the rack.
Yeah.
You know, like, think about it. Why do I care about this?
Yeah.
You know, because you can rob yourself of a lot of beautiful life because you woke up and like check the stats on something and that number didn't look like what you wanted. This is just me speaking from personal experience. Like that's like a very, that was like a very dangerous, damaging thing that I was doing to my life.
I still do it.
And like to the best of my ability, it's not an ignoring. It's just like, what is my, where does my validation come from? And I don't ever want to get to a place where I let that dictate whether or not I'm having a good day.
Yep.
That seems like a pretty sorry place to be because I can't control it.
There's a guy, his name is Brad Warren. Brad said something to me one time and I remember it. I think about it almost every day.
Yeah.
When it comes down to like co-writing and making music, he's like, these days I just want to write a song with somebody I can have a bad day with. And it's simple, but it's very true of, man, if me and you could just sit and hang out and I'm having the shittiest day, it ain't about like, did we write a hit?
Yeah.
Can we get it to Cody Johnson? And maybe we did, and maybe we can. But at least at this stage of life for me, what's more important, what is more of a priority is that I get to sit across from another human being and have the same shared experience in life.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever we're going through. That to me is what it's about when it comes to collaboration at least.
Man. Yeah. That's beautiful. Before we get out of here, if you could go back to younger you, give yourself one piece of advice, what would you say?
I would say give yourself a little grace.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right. You know, I think younger me and old me, we have the same thing running of like, we're restless. We've always got to, I always feel like people are passing us by if we're not going 100% full steam ahead. If I could go back to younger me, I'd go, as cliche as it is, like stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, man.
Because really, if you don't live life, if you don't smell the roses or whatever metaphor you want to use, you're pulling from an inspiration tank that is empty or vapid, or you're trying to make it up. But if you really are present and mindful in like living your life, highs and lows and in between, then you are going to, in my opinion, have more to draw from when it comes time to putting that into lyric and melody or painting or a movie or whatever it is artistically that you do.
Yeah.
So I would go back to younger me and say, hey, man, just chill out, live a little life.
Go to your friend's wedding or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
all that stuff.
I hate weddings, but
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta go.
gotta go, dude.
Dude, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate
I'm a huge
you.
fan of this podcast.
Oh, dude. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be on here. Thank you.
Man. It's great. All right, guys. That's it. That's the pod. See you later.
Hakuna Matata.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of 10 Year Town. If you're still listening, you must have liked it. So we hope that you will leave us a rating or review on Apple or Spotify, or give us a subscription on YouTube. It's all free. Don't cost you nothing. But we appreciate you being here, and thank you for supporting the 10 Year Town community. See you next week.